Ivan Nikitovich Kozhedub was born on June 8, 1920, to a poor Ukrainian family in the village of Obrazhiyevka in what is now Ukraine's Sumy Oblast. Despite extreme poverty, Ivan's father always ensured his children valued their education. Kozhedub attended Shostka Chemical Technology College while also attending flight lessons nearby. He graduated in 1939, shortly before taking his first solo flight in April in a Polikarpov U-2. Growing up, Kozhedub idolized famous Russian aviator Valery Chikhalov, an early pioneer of Russian aeronautics known for flying a Tupolev An-25 from Moscow to Seattle in a 63-hour marathon flight across the North Pole. Chikhalov also led the stunt section of the Russian Air Force in the mid-1930s. Kozhedub joined the Red Army in February of 1940, graduating from the Obrazhiyevka Military Aviation School of Pilots, learning to fly the UT-2 and I-16. After gaining his pilot's wings, he became an aviation instructor. The school was evacuated and moved to Shumkin in the autumn of 1941 to avoid the incoming German invasion. After many months working as a pilot trainer, Kozhedub was finally transferred to Moscow in November of 1942 to join the 302nd Fighter Aviation Division and receive training in his new aircraft, the La-5. He was soon transferred to the Voronezh front. After being promoted to flight commander, Kozhedub operated over the battlefields of Kursk in early July. He was closing in on his first kill when he fell victim to tunnel vision, not noticing that two Bf-109s were closing in on his tail. His plane was hammered with machine gun and cannon fire, nearly knocking it out of the sky and rendering it a total loss before Kozhedub even got to fire at his target. After receiving a new plane, Kozhedub finally scored his first kill on July 6th in the form of a Ju-87. During his early days fighting on the front line, Kozhedub had become friends with ace and expert aviator Kirill Yevstigneyev. The two pilots would often talk tactics, determining which approaches led to the best results on the battlefield. Kozhedub closed in on his enemies and surprised them with close-range gunfire, much like many other pilots on this list. His preferred method involved moving behind and under the enemy in the blind spot under the aircraft's belly before moving in for the kill out of sight of the opposing pilot and rear gunners. This tactic allowed him to tie Arseny Vorozhekin for the most kills against Ju-87s, with 18 Stuka kills throughout the war. Kozhedub shot down his second Ju-87 on the 7th, following this victory with 2 kills on Bf-109s on the 9th. By the 16th of August, he had racked up 8 kills, gaining himself a promotion to junior lieutenant. Kozhedub spent most of his early combat time defending flights of PE-2s from German fighters. By October, he had flown 146 combat missions and was credited with 20 kills. Because of these exploits, Kozhedub was nominated for his first Hero of the Soviet Union, which he received the following year. Over a 10-day period, Kozhedub was credited with 11 kills against pilots of Yagdishvater 51 over the Dnieper. While Soviet aircraft are generally not regarded as positively as contemporary American or British aircraft, Kozhedub notably loved the LA series, saying, "The motor works accurately, the plane is obedient to my every movement, I am not alone, my fighting friend is with me." In May 1944, he was given a special new aircraft, the La-5F. The aircraft Kozhedub was presented with had been donated to the Red Army by a farmer named Vasily Konev, who had donated the money for the aircraft's construction after losing his son, Colonel Gregory Konev, near the front lines earlier in the war. Kozhedub was awarded his second Hero of the Soviet Union in July 1944 for achieving 46 victories and 256 combat sorties. Later in July, he was posted on the 1st Belarusian Front as Vice Commander of the 176th Guards Fighter Regiment, receiving another upgrade, the La-7. The 176 Guards were a free hunting unit created by then Chief Marshal of Aviation Alexander Novikov. Unlike most of Kozhedub's last assignments, his new unit was tasked solely with finding and engaging German aircraft, meaning that he no longer had to take part in escort and ground support missions. During his time with the 176th, Kozhedub's aircraft was hit, killing the engine behind enemy lines. Instead of bailing out and ensuring capture, he aimed the plane at the most prominent German target he could find and prepared to sacrifice himself in defense of his homeland. However, the engine caught back to life at the last second and he returned home. In February 1945, Kozhedub and his wingman fellow ace Dmitry Titarenko came across a lone Me-262 jet fighter. The German aircraft was flying much faster than the two Soviets. Still, Titarenko fired a burst from his cannons in front of the German aircraft. The Me-262 turned to avoid the incoming fire, slowing his plane and putting him in front of Kozhedub in the process. The Soviet ace shot down the German aircraft, making him the first Soviet pilot to down a jet in combat. According to Kozhedub, he attempted to assist a formation of B-17s under attack from German aircraft on April 17, 1945. However, two American pilots mistook him for a German and began firing at his plane. The Americans didn't heed his warning, so he was forced to shoot down both American fighters to protect himself and his machine. Ivan Kozhedub flew 330 sorties throughout his time fighting in World War II. During these missions, he engaged in 120 actions against enemy aircraft and was credited with 62 victories. As a result of this momentous achievement, he was awarded his third Hero of the Soviet Union on August 18, 1945, after being retired from combat. He served on the North Korean side in the Korean War, commanding the 176th Guards and the 196th Fighter Aviation Regiment.